Guys,
hello.
Nice to see you guys. We can't actually see you, but this is the church update for Bucharest in Romania. We're now in Athens, but we spent 4 days in Romania, and we had meetings with the head of production, Alex, and the pastor, Adrian, and then the head of small groups and events, we're called Florin. And also we went to the service, and we managed to get even to their partner church on the Sunday. So it was nice. We got a very wide array of meetings and chats with people, and we're very excited about M28.
Okay.
Named
after Matthew 28.
The Great Commission.
Great Commission. And it just says, go out and make disciples of all nations. And actually that's probably the biggest underlying thread of all our meetings, was that everyone was kind of not drilling into us, but repeating the discipleship message. That's their key. That's the message that unifies their team, unifies their church, their congregation, everything. It's about discipleship. Discipleship comes first. How do we disciple our congregation members, our team? How do we raise people up? And that was really good to see that it was everyone was
Every team
exactly
member was
the same
so
thing.
in tune with that
So
vision.
passionate about that.
And when we were there on Saturday, it feels like a really established church. I mean, we were also almost commenting that it doesn't really feel very church planty, but
it's 7 years old, so it's
7 years old. 7 years old in September, and
one of the older churches we're visiting.
They have 2 services and about sort of
pretty
200 people overall.
250, I think.
250, yeah, overall.
Plus, and I think that's just adults, maybe.
Yeah, and they've got really good youth ministry. Even when we were there on the Sunday, the kids were going off on a week-long camp.
And they had about 25 youth, which is really
25
good.
youth, yeah. They're really good for all different ages and different like that. And
they've got the kind of classic things the equivalent of a Rise. They've got Alpha. They've got small groups, lots of courses,
everything,
all that kind of thing. Yeah.
So we were there for the weekly rehearsal on the Friday, and something that struck out to us just immediately was the atmosphere of the place. And I think the best example of this is their cameraman was just there at the rehearsal, photographer, and he didn't need to be. He was just there because that was the place to be on a Friday night, and everyone was hugging, high-fiving, laughing together. It feels like such a family. A real team, and that was so good. And even after the Sunday service, they go back to someone's house and keep on worshipping and keep on having fellowship, and so they are really faithful and really striving for God in their lives. And I think that's such a nice and such a valuable undertone to have in your church.
Yeah. So the first meeting was with Alex, who's the production manager. Wonderful guy, picked us up from the airport, super generous. Took us to burgers.
Very excited guy. Yeah. Very passionate and driven about the future of the church.
One of the first things he said was discipleship. And he meets up with one of his. So there's 36 on worship/tech, which is loads, as the team for on a rota, obviously. So he meets up with one of them every week.
And talking about the rota, they have this app.
Oh, the app is
which is brilliant.
All the songs and the lyrics and
the transitions,
chords and everything like that.
Key they're in, who's on worship,
who's on which
night, and
instrument, everything. It's
tech.
Brilliant.
It's absolutely phenomenal organisation.
So he meets up with one of his team every week. Absolute priority. He says there was someone who said, "Oh, I don't get back from work till 10," and he said, "Well, come to my house at 10 p.m. then." And then they chatted till 3 in the morning or something crazy.
So he's really focused on his team not getting burnt out, and his team. And he asks the question, "How is your heart?" And he's really driven about having a team that know each other and have fellowship. But I mean, a result of that might be that he starts to get a little bit.
We thought maybe he was getting there.
His physical health is struggling a little bit.
But he's got a problem with his back, which is quite debilitating at the moment.
But the thing he's trying to start is teaching people how to do his job. For example, so he was away for a couple of months because of his injury. And the church didn't fall over. And he wants to make sure that if he's not there, it might be slightly worse, obviously, but the church can still function.
There's always backup.
There's always backup.
Addy, the pastor, was away at Cluj preaching at another church this week, and he obviously didn't feel like it was missing anything. So he also makes sure everyone on team gets at least one service a month to receive, so they're not working, they're not on worship, they're not on tech, nothing.
It's just interesting because he thought when he became head of production that his job would be better sound, better screens, better lighting, but he so quickly realised that his actual job is discipleship of his team, discipleship of the church, and that was really good.
But also, he's really knowledgeable about tech and that kind of thing, and we got the sense, speaking to everyone we spoke to, that money is really well spent. So it's not a focus, but you could give them whatever amount of money and they could spend it on. Alex would know, okay, I need this camera,
Whereas
this
he
light,
said he needs a
whatever.
new computer and he needs all of this and this and this, but discipleship, you don't need the best of the best, and it looks great. But something we did notice while we were there is location maybe might struggle because it wasn't a very high footfall area.
And also we walked straight past it, having already been there once. On the Sunday morning we walked past.
So actually inside the building it's brilliant, it's really well laid out and it's amazing for a church, but actually outside the building it doesn't, it might struggle. So maybe some more work with sort of banners outside or a different, they are looking for a different, bigger location.
They're looking to move location almost to the other side of Bucharest, which I think is interesting because you'd obviously don't want to take away from the surrounding like area of the current church too much, but I think they definitely do need a bigger location in the nearish future.
But then we went forward and we had our meeting with Adrian, the pastor, and I mean it's very biblically grounded. I mean he used sort of scripture in all the examples that he was saying, and actually when he was starting out as a church planter, he had a lot of job offers from more traditional churches, but he wanted a different brand of church, so he started his own, and with a main vision of discipleship. And they do assessments. One thing he said they do assessments of the staff every summer, evaluation, and
asking all the elders and the staff, to kind of give feedback. And also when we talked to Florian, who's the head of small groups, he was really keen on that, really passionate about that, and making sure small groups are working the right way, and he really wants to see how God's moving. So that's good to see reflection and.
He was talking about how he wants leaders to come out of the small group and lead other small groups, and so the multiplication in that way, which is so sustainable and so healthy.
We asked about Adrian's vision for the future, and he said he was really looking forward to planting churches from their church in the not too distant future. He said he has this kind of vision of like a M28 north, south, east, west, etc.
So
not that there's and they're kind of all equal. It's not just that there's parent church and then there's daughter churches.
He didn't want sort of satellite churches or anything like that, sort of equal, and he could see some challenges with that.
He said he was kind of okay setting back his church a few years of growth worth to make sure those churches can really flourish when they're planted, which is good.
He said one of the main barriers to ministry in the city is the church and the church not sharing the gospel. So he's been involved in churches, and actually Alex was saying he's been involved in churches before that just weren't really sharing the gospel, and so that's one of the big pillars of M28 and what they teach and what they try and do in sharing the gospel. And he's focusing almost on how to start conversations just in his daily life. So he shared many stories about just him at the shops or restaurants or sharing the gospel and everything like that.
He also sees a lot of importance in connecting the churches in Bucharest. I think there was a better network before COVID, but COVID kind of killed it off a little bit. But he seems super excited about that. And also M28 supports other churches. So they need a new coffee machine, so they gave their old coffee machine to another church in Cluj, which is, it's just nice to see the networking and churches supporting each other. And I guess in the other cities we visited, maybe it would have been the church being supported. But because this is a bit more established, it kind of has the funds and the resources to support other churches, which is great.
A great thing was 123 out of their 150 people.
150 members, so they have a bigger congregation, but 150 members.
Members volunteer, a welcome team, or making coffee, or ushers, or
small group leaders, worship, whatever.
But one thing he said was maybe wondering if they're serving for the right reasons, and he had 3 clear steps of you worship Jesus, you walk with Jesus, and then you work with Jesus, and wondering if maybe they're not there quite yet, which was just quite interesting and sort of intriguing for the future.
But obviously very important that people are serving for the right reasons, and that was his kind of aim for the next year, the short term.
I think one of the most important things out of that meeting came was that he's just got a very good attitude to money. So we were talking about what the main challenges to your church, the main barriers. Not once did he talk really specifically about money until we asked, is money an issue?
Which of course it is. Money always helps.
And for the new location and everything.
But it really wasn't his focus.
And he
has a lot of faith in God.
And he shared 2 stories about that. And one was where at one point they wanted 2 staff, one for dealing with the Sundays and one for the other sort of weekly events, and small groups, and they didn't really have the funding. And then Europe Collaboration came in at that moment, and so that they could hire these 2 people at that right time in that specific moment. And then the second one was...
So this year they wanted to have a kids and youth camp, 2 separate camps, but they were very expensive. They needed about 6,000 euros, I think. And then, kind of out of the blue, I think a couple of weeks ago, very recently, a donation of $6,000 came in from an individual in the US who knew that money was needed for the camps, but didn't have any idea how much actually. And kind of their financial advisors said, no, postpone it till next year. But he had faith. He just said, no, let's do it.
He said, let's find out a way of doing this.
He asked the youth and children's leaders, and they said, yeah, now's the right year.
So he had faith, and I just think that is such a big,
great thing to see.
Great quality to have as pastor, in the trust and faith in God, and so biblically grounded. And we thought he was a stand-up guy.
Yeah, we thought I really got the sense he was a great preacher, and we didn't hear him preach because we weren't there on Sunday. But
not something we can really explain.
No, not something we can really explain, but just had that vibe.
Yeah, but no, really exciting. We loved our time
all really positive
with M28, and yeah, it was a beautiful place, beautiful church, and we're so excited for it in the future. But yeah, so that's us. Hope you're all doing well, and see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.